What happens when America's favorite leading lady comes face to face with unexpected resistance during what was supposed to be a routine television appearance? When Jennifer Aniston stepped onto the set of The View that morning, she believed she was there for the usual reason, to talk about her newest project and share a few lighthearted stories. She had done countless interviews before. This one seemed no different, at least at first glance. What she didn't anticipate was that the conversation would quickly turn into a tense exchange that would leave the studio frozen and viewers at home scrambling to react. From the instant she walked onto the stage, something felt slightly off. The applause sounded normal, but the atmosphere carried a strange undercurrent. The smiles at the table didn't quite reach the eyes. Joy Behar's greeting, in particular, felt edged with something sharper than humor. Instead of the typical warm welcome, her tone carried a bite. "Well, look who finally decided to join us," Joy remarked as Jennifer settled into her seat. The words were playful on the surface, but there was a pointed quality underneath. Jennifer responded with a polite laugh, maintaining the poise she had perfected over decades in the spotlight. She thanked them for having her and added that it was always interesting to be there. "Interesting," Joy echoed, leaning back with a knowing expression. The single word seemed loaded. Then she shifted gears abruptly. She mentioned that she had followed Jennifer's career for years, and wondered aloud when the actress had become such an authority on everything. The remark landed heavily. For a brief second, Jennifer's practiced smile flickered, but she quickly regained composure. She calmly asked what Joy meant. Joy didn't soften her stance. She pointed out Jennifer's recent interviews discussing politics, social matters, and public health, while acknowledging Jennifer's success as an actress, especially referencing her time on Friends. Joy questioned whether starring in a sitcom made someone qualified to advise the public on serious issues. Around the table, Whoopi Goldberg, Sunny Hostin, Sarah Haynes, and Alyssa Farah Griffin exchanged uneasy looks. This was not the typical promotional conversation. Whoopi attempted to redirect the discussion toward Jennifer's new work, but Joy insisted the topic was important. She argued that since Jennifer had been outspoken, viewers deserved to understand the source of her confidence. Jennifer's posture stiffened slightly, yet her tone remained measured. She explained that she never claimed to be an expert. When she spoke about issues, she did so as a concerned citizen, not as someone presenting herself as superior. Joy countered that a citizen with millions of followers carried immense influence. With that reach came accountability, she argued, implying that celebrities shouldn't speak casually on matters affecting everyday people. The studio grew silent. Even behind the scenes, staff sensed the tension mounting. Jennifer's publicist watched anxiously. Jennifer held steady. She said she used her visibility to encourage voting compassion and empathy. If advocating for those values was controversial, she suggested, perhaps the discomfort wasn't about her at all. Joy let out a short laugh devoid of amusement. She accused Jennifer of playing the victim and claimed the real issue was the perception that wealth and fame granted moral superiority. She contrasted celebrities with regular people, implying a disconnect. That phrase caught Jennifer's attention. She pointed out that Joy herself sat on a nationally broadcast program influencing millions every day. Both of them had platforms. What, she asked pointedly, made one more regular than the other? For a brief moment, Joy appeared unsettled. Then she fired back, asserting that she had worked tirelessly to earn her position. She implied that Jennifer's path had been eased by beauty and fortunate timing. Audible gasps rippled through the audience. The other hosts looked stunned. Sunny even covered her mouth. Jennifer didn't retreat. She repeated the phrase, "Worked for this," questioning whether Joy truly believed her accomplishments were merely the result of appearance. Joy's voice rose as she suggested that some people had to struggle from nothing, without connections or advantages smoothing their way. That insinuation seemed to strike a nerve. Jennifer's calm exterior cracked, but instead of shouting, her voice lowered into something sharper and more intense. She said Joy had no understanding of her upbringing or the obstacles she faced. Assumptions, she emphasized, were easy to make from a distance. She then shifted the focus, suggesting the hostility said more about Joy than about her. Joy leaned in, refusing to yield. She criticized what she described as Hollywood's insulated culture, claiming entertainers lived detached from ordinary realities while instructing others how to think. Jennifer seized on that characterization. She noted the irony of criticizing the entertainment industry while participating in it daily on a talk show that blended news and celebrity culture. The air felt charged. Cameras continued rolling. The spontaneity of daytime television had given way to something raw. Each exchange grew more pointed, neither willing to concede ground. The other hosts looked caught between professional composure and genuine disbelief, trying to find an opening to regain control. What began as a standard promotional appearance had transformed into a confrontation about privilege, influence, and credibility. Every word carried weight, every pause thick with implication. The audience sat riveted, aware they were witnessing a moment that would reverberate far beyond the studio walls. It was obvious by then that the situation had moved beyond anyone's control. The exchange had gathered momentum, and there was no slowing it down. Joy stood firm, insisting that what she did on the show was authentic and grounded. She argued that her role involved discussing genuine concerns that impacted everyday citizens. Unlike actors, she said, she didn't make a living pretending to be someone else and then expect credibility when speaking as herself. Jennifer held her gaze for several long seconds before replying. When she finally spoke, her tone was calm but cutting. She said that everything unfolding in that moment was very real, especially the resentment and hostility driving the conversation. She pointed out the irony of inviting a guest onto a program only to try to diminish them publicly. She added that viewers were witnessing a revealing display of character, one that said far more than any rehearsed line ever could. The quiet that followed was heavy and uncomfortable. Joy's expression shifted from flushed anger to a pale rigidity. For the first time since the tension began, she seemed momentarily at a loss for words. But that pause quickly dissolved. Her voice wavered at first, then hardened into something sharper. She declared that she had earned every opportunity through persistence and grit. Unlike some people, she claimed she hadn't relied on charm or appearance to smooth the path to success. Jennifer exhaled slowly, a restrained, incredulous laugh escaping before she could stop it. She observed that even after the exchange had exposed so much negativity, Joy seemed determined to intensify it rather than step back. The accusation of pettiness triggered an explosive reaction. Joy's voice climbed higher as she defended herself, insisting she was merely posing valid questions about whether an entertainer possessed the qualifications to weigh in on significant national matters. Jennifer's reply was measured, almost eerily steady. She explained that the issue wasn't about asking questions, but about transforming a professional interview into a personal assault. She said it was unfair to speculate about someone's upbringing or struggles without understanding them. Attempting to tear another person down in order to elevate oneself, she added, rarely achieve the desired effect. Whoopi Goldberg finally interjected, urging both women to pause and breathe. Her effort to restore order was swiftly interrupted. Joy leaned forward and gestured emphatically, demanding that Jennifer clarify how someone who performed scripted roles believed she had the authority to influence political conversations across the country. A flash of anger crossed Jennifer's face. She challenged the dismissive description of acting as mere make-believe. She reminded everyone that she had begun working professionally at 22, dedicating herself to mastering her craft. Over more than 30 years, she had collaborated with respected colleagues and sustained a career that endured the volatility of Hollywood. Even if her path had been easier, she said, would not justify being treated with contempt. Joy responded with a harsh laugh, accusing Jennifer of showing disrespect to ordinary workers by discussing policy and civic engagement from the comfort of a luxurious home. Jennifer's disbelief was evident. She asked what the confrontation was truly about, suggesting that it seemed less about differing views and more about a deeper, personal grievance. Joy dismissed the idea of any personal motive and claimed she was simply challenging the perceived hypocrisy of famous figures who believed their popularity entitled them to sway voters. Jennifer fired back, questioning who had granted Joy the authority to determine whose opinions were legitimate. She emphasized that in a democratic society, every individual had the right to express their beliefs, regardless of profession. Joy brushed aside the civics reference with a sneer, arguing that influence was not evenly distributed. Some voices carried greater weight, she said, and Jennifer's prominence had not been earned in a way that justified that power. The statement lingered in the air, charged and accusatory. Jennifer regarded her carefully before answering in a dangerously quiet tone. She rejected the notion that her platform was unearned. She spoke of decades spent navigating rejection, setbacks, and projects that failed to meet expectations. She described enduring relentless public scrutiny, invasive headlines, and constant judgment from strangers convinced they understood her life. Success, she implied, was rarely accidental and never effortless. Joy mocked the idea that acting constituted hard labor. She reduced it to memorizing dialogue, appearing polished on camera, and collecting enormous paychecks. To her, that wasn't toil, it was a stroke of luck akin to winning a jackpot. Around the table, discomfort was unmistakable. Sarah Haynes attempted to steer the conversation back toward safer territory, but Joy refused to pivot. She insisted that this confrontation was exposing a broader truth. In her view, Jennifer embodied a culture of celebrity that confused fame with wisdom and assumed public admiration equated to authority. With each accusation, the atmosphere thickened. The discussion was no longer about a film, a television series, or even a particular policy stance. It had become a referendum on legitimacy, merit, and who deserved to shape public dialogue. Jennifer's restraint, maintained for much of the exchange, began to erode under the weight of repeated insinuations. Her composure, so carefully preserved throughout her career, finally fractured. The hurt and frustration she had kept contained surfaced unmistakably. The polished exterior gave way to something more human and unguarded, signaling that the clash had reached a breaking point neither side could easily walk back from. She pushed her chair back abruptly, rising to her feet as the tension finally overflowed. For a split second, it seemed as though she might storm off the stage entirely. Instead, she remained where she was and faced Joy head-on, her hands trembling slightly though her posture stayed upright. Her voice quivered, not with fear, but with tightly restrained anger. She said she had arrived that day intending to discuss a project she cared deeply about, hoping to engage viewers and share a meaningful, enjoyable exchange. What she had encountered instead, she explained, felt like a deliberate attempt to dismantle her character in front of a national audience. Joy rose as well, the two women now standing across from each other at the table. She declared that her motive was transparency, that she believed in challenging what she viewed as absurdity. Jennifer did not hesitate in her reply. She insisted that what was unfolding had little to do with truth and far more to do with cruelty. She accused Joy of elevating herself by diminishing others, and said it was disheartening to witness such behavior broadcast to countless viewers, including those who once admired her. Joy's face flushed a deep crimson as she fired back, warning Jennifer not to question her sense of duty to the audience. She emphasized that she had spent decades advocating for working-class individuals and speaking candidly about injustice. Jennifer responded with a humorless laugh, questioning what authority or dominance Joy believed she was challenging. She pointed out the obvious imbalance as a guest. She had no control over the platform, while Joy held the reins of the conversation. Using that advantage to corner someone she said resembled bullying more than accountability. The accusation struck hard, Joy protested, her voice cracking as she insisted she was not a bully but a journalist posing difficult inquiries. Jennifer's answer was quiet yet resonant enough to carry through the studio. She distinguished between genuine journalism, seeking clarity and understanding, and what she felt was happening. What she was experiencing, she said plainly, was simple meanness. The word seemed to land like a blow. For a fleeting instant, Joy's expression softened, revealing a flicker of vulnerability before hardening again into defiance. She rejected the label and claimed she was merely voicing what others privately believed but were too courteous to articulate. In her view, celebrities moved through life with exaggerated self-importance, assuming their perspectives deserved elevated attention. And she was tired of it. Jennifer countered with a straightforward question that momentarily halted the momentum. If Joy held such disdain for entertainers and doubted the value of their viewpoints, why invite them onto the program at all? The simplicity of the challenge appeared to unsettle Joy. There was a pause as she searched for a response. Jennifer continued, stating that high-profile guests boosted viewership and drew interest. Regardless of personal opinions about their legitimacy, their presence benefited the show. Yet that reliance did not prevent them from being treated dismissively once seated at the table. The undeniable logic of that point rippled across the studio. Expressions shifted among the panel and crew, reflecting discomfort and realization. Joy's features cycled through irritation, disbelief, and something akin to embarrassment before settling into a hardened glare. She opened her mouth several times, struggling to counter the argument that had just exposed a glaring inconsistency. Rather than retreat, she intensified her attack. She warned Jennifer not to redirect blame toward the program or its ratings and insisted the issue was about perceived arrogance. Jennifer shook her head slowly, her voice now carrying a tone that sounded almost sorrowful. She said she had never suggested superiority over anyone, and that the notion existed solely in Joy's interpretation. The assumptions, she explained, seemed rooted in Joy's own perceptions rather than anything she had said. Joy reacted sharply to the suggestion of insecurity, her pitch rising. She emphasized her longevity in the industry and her belief that she had labored harder without advantages. Jennifer gently noted that the assumption of effortless success had resurfaced yet again. She reminded Joy that she had no first-hand knowledge of her early years, of waiting tables between auditions enduring rejection after rejection, or contemplating abandoning her ambitions. Those chapters, she said, were invisible to outsiders who preferred simplified narratives. Even if those struggles were laid bare, she doubted they would alter Joy's opinion, because the judgment had already been formed. Across the set, Whoopi gestured urgently toward producers, clearly searching for a way to de-escalate the spiraling confrontation. The atmosphere felt combustible, yet impossible to interrupt. Audience members sat motionless, acutely aware they were witnessing an exchange unlike typical daytime banter. The discomfort was palpable, stretching across the studio like a heavy curtain. Joy's expression hardened further, anger etched into every line of her face. The discussion had shifted far beyond policy or celebrity commentary. It had evolved into a deeply personal clash over respect, legitimacy, and resentment. Jennifer stood firm despite the tremor in her hands, meeting hostility with controlled intensity. The energy between them crackled, neither willing to concede ground, as the studio remained suspended in stunned silence. Prejudices. You're calling me prejudiced? Joy shot back, her voice rising with disbelief. She scoffed at the idea, adding that it was ironic coming from someone she believed had never experienced genuine hardship or discrimination. The remark carried a sharp edge meant to wound. Jennifer's eyes sparked with anger. She repeated the phrase, real hardship, as if testing its weight. She told Joy that she knew absolutely nothing about her personal history, nothing about the obstacles she had faced or the private battles she had fought. Yet she refused to sit there and recite her struggles as though she were competing for some award in suffering. She made it clear she did not require validation or approval from anyone at that table. Joy immediately replied that approval was never on the table anyway. She said bluntly that Jennifer represented everything she disliked about celebrity culture: privilege, detachment, and the assumption that beauty and notoriety equated to insight. The hostility in her tone was so direct and cutting that even members of the crew appeared visibly uneasy. Jennifer, however, did not retreat. She straightened her shoulders and responded in a voice that was calm but firm. Over the past several minutes, she said, Joy had attacked her character, guessed at her upbringing, belittled her profession, and reduced her identity to superficial traits, all while she was sitting there as an invited guest. If anyone watching considered that conduct acceptable, she added, she felt sympathy for them. Joy trembled with fury and warned Jennifer not to pretend she was innocent in the exchange. She accused her of arriving with a hidden agenda, pushing personal beliefs and acting as though her perspective deserved greater weight than others. Jennifer reacted with disbelief, reminding Joy that she had come to discuss a film project, not to debate politics. It was Joy who had steered the discussion into ideological territory and then made it personal. That statement seemed to ignite something deeper in Joy. Her expression twisted with unrestrained anger as she admitted that yes, it had become personal. She declared herself exhausted by celebrities leveraging fame to sway public opinion and influence elections. She mocked actors for thinking that memorizing scripts qualified them to dispense advice. Her voice dripped with contempt as she described what she saw as entitled figures expecting gentle treatment. The intensity of her words drew audible gasps from the audience. Sunny appeared on the verge of tears and Sarah buried her face in her hands. The atmosphere felt almost unbearable. Still, Jennifer remained composed. Quietly, she said that what everyone was seeing now was not a performer or commentator, but a person overwhelmed by resentment and anger, someone who could not tolerate the success of others. Joy's face drained of color before flushing again. She whispered a demand to know how Jennifer dared to analyze her character so openly. Jennifer responded that she was not analyzing, only observing behavior that was visible to anyone watching. She said the anger and bitterness were evident and for reasons unclear, she had become the chosen outlet. Suddenly, Joy stood so abruptly that her chair rolled backward. She declared she had endured enough and refused to listen to what she called a faded sitcom actress lecture her about identity. Jennifer echoed the word, faded, and for the first time, a genuine laugh escaped her. She pointed out that the exchange would circulate widely within minutes. Viewers would see exactly how a guest had been treated, how accusations had escalated into personal insults. She added that if anyone's professional standing was endangered by this spectacle, it was unlikely to be hers. That realization seemed to settle over the studio all at once. Joy's expression shifted as the magnitude of the situation became clear, yet instead of softening or offering reconciliation, she made one final demand. She ordered that Jennifer be removed from the set immediately. Whoopi attempted to interject, but Joy cut her off, insisting it was her segment and that she wanted the guest gone. Jennifer responded with calm dignity, saying there was no need for force. She would not remain in an environment she considered hostile. Turning toward the audience, she explained that she had intended to discuss a creative endeavor she valued. Instead, she had endured a barrage of personal attacks that revealed more about their source than about her. She expressed hope that viewers would reflect on the way people treat one another, especially when one holds authority over the other. Actions taken from positions of power, she suggested, often expose true character more clearly than any prepared statement ever could. Security began moving closer, though Jennifer was already walking toward the exit under her own power. Just before stepping off the set, she paused briefly and wished Joy well, adding that she suspected the program might soon need it. Her departure left behind a stunned silence that felt almost tangible. The confrontation had unfolded in under half an hour, yet its impact seemed far larger. Joy sank back into her seat, the weight of what had transpired settling in as the cameras continued broadcasting. The studio remained hushed, every person present aware they had witnessed a moment that would reverberate far beyond that stage, reshaping perceptions and igniting conversations across the entertainment world.